let's cover off the last topic, which is Google and YouTube stop showing ads on content that denies climate change.
Yeah.
Pretty self-explanatory heading there. Google issued an update saying essentially ads and monetization policies on climate change. In recent years, we've heard directly from a growing number of our advertising and publisher partners who have expressed concerns about ads that run alongside or promote inaccurate claims about climate change. Advertisers simply don't want the ads to appear next to this content, and publishers and creators don't want ads promoting these claims to appear on their pages or videos. This includes content referring to climate change as a hoax or a scam, claims denying that long-term trends show that global climate change is that the global climate is warming, and claims denying that greenhouse gas emissions or human activity contribute to climate change. We will also continue to allow ads and monetization on other climate-related topics, including public debates on climate policy, the varying impacts of climate change, new research, and more. My initial reaction from a black and white point of view is, why are we letting platforms decide what is right, what is wrong, what is moral, what is immoral? I think, you know, not seeing aggressive videos with, abuse or murder or blood and gore is fair, but not seeing ads and content on, I don't know, other issues, where do you draw the line?
Yeah. I think it's a very big ethical conversation, obviously. Um, I mean, it's one thing to sort of have an opinion on something. And I think we've had this sort of discussion previously. Have an opinion on something versus straight up facts from the world's smartest scientists and all of that. Um, and where does social media and companies that have these kind of platforms, Google and all of that, like what point do they have to intervene? And are they allowed to intervene? And is that cutting into free speech or anything like that? I personally think that this is a great move. I mean, obviously, it's positive for the advertisers because, well, for Google, because advertisers will continue to advertise with them. So,
That is sort of the second thing that I noticed,
yeah,
is they're effectively saying people don't want to pay to advertise next to these things, so it's easier for us to remove these things and continue to take their money than stop showing ads in front of this type of content. Well, actually, what they're saying is this content is of no monetary value or financial value to us, so we're just not going to allow it anymore.
yeah, which I think is probably the main driver in it. But then there's obviously the ethical considerations of maybe not, well, actually, yes, Google and Facebook and other platforms these days are such a breeding ground for misinformation. And obviously, there's been such a crackdown on it through Instagram and all of that, where they really tag it and say, like, check the facts of this. It's related to COVID, for example. And they'll really try to call it out. So I think that it's an ethical thing to do to sort of say this is not factually correct and we will not support you by doing this by giving you money from advertisers and blah, blah, blah. But obviously, it is also a very smart business decision to keep the advertisers on board. So it is twofold, but I think it's really positive. But it does come into that thing of, where is the line drawn? What's okay to censor? What's not okay to censor? Does it all need to be absolutely factual to go through? Can there be some opinion in there?
Well, but then what is fact? Like that's a
Yeah,
whole other.
sometimes that's not clear cut. That's the thing. Like, you can have obvious scientific stuff going on, but when there's other debates around all
Well,
sorts of different.
even obvious scientific things. There are scientists who say that climate change isn't a problem. It's not the general consensus. It's not, the vast majority do not say that. But I mean, there are scientists who say that. There are sort of people who do research in certain areas who say that. Now, and that it raises a bigger question. I've had sort of conversations during the week about this sort of thing. Is like, how do we? What do we say? Do we say, okay, you're a scientist if you fit X Y Z criteria? Is that how we
Yeah.
define it? Or if you went to X Y Z school, your doctorate is respected, but if you got it from doc phdsarus.com, we won't sort of accept it or value it. Um,
Yeah, there's definitely, I can picture like the tin hat people sort of saying, this is a conspiracy. They'll only allow content that fits their agenda and their agendas, who says their agenda's right, kind of thing. Um, it's a tough one because obviously, when it comes to climate change, for example, it's pretty clear that it's real. There's thousands and thousands of scientists around the world that say it is. And as you said, it depends on where those climate denying scientists are getting their degrees and things.
Well,
Yeah.
it's more that how do we decide who gets, who's saying something that is supposed to be listened to more. Like I stumbled across a debate, or heard about a debate with Alex Jones, the famous conspiracy theorist. And I was sort of like, okay, it was a debate between Alex Jones and someone else, and I thought, okay, let me check out this debate, because Alex Jones apparently just lost his mind and just was, going crazy, as he's known to do. And I didn't realize that he doesn't actually have a presence on a bunch of platforms as of 2018: YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. Um, and I then went to his website, and I could see why.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
some
I mean,
interesting stuff.
yeah, all these platforms, they've always had community guidelines and policies that allow them to remove people that they would deem problematic. So, like this, it just is an extension of that, surely. And there is obviously
Yeah,
more ethical questions to come up around it, but it's not like it's a new thing.
it's
So
not a
then,
new thing, but I think increasingly it raises questions around, okay, how much control do these platforms then have? Because if you can see more of certain type of content, if they can sculpt content, like this is going a bit crazy, but like, what if it was to be, Facebook versus the government of the United States, or government of US, UK, and Australia trying to do, you know, XYZ to Facebook? What stops Facebook from just going, you know what? All your, all these platforms that push news in your countries, we're banning them. We're only allowing these other platforms that are on our side to push information out. And then, you know, what happens there? How do we manage that? How do we control that? Again, another topic in this week's episode that's like a
yeah,
huge can of worms.